As we head into September, I wanted to get a good list of stocks that have momentum and I should be ready to buy in the month of September. So, what I've done is I've looked at the performance of the stocks that I own in the month of August to see what their performance was in that month. On every stock that I own, I do intrinsic analysis to see what I think the stock is worth. I try to buy stocks that are high quality companies, companies that I really desire, and try to buy them at a discount. So I'm going to show you which stocks have momentum in this video. I also share with you which ones I plan to buy in the month of September. The way that I buy additional shares is I wait for pullbacks. And the month of September historically has shown that it will have pullbacks. So I'll be ready. I've done my homework. Pullback happens. I'll be ready to pull the trigger on these stocks. Now let's take a look. I'm going to start with the number one player, and that one is Starbucks. Starbucks has had a somewhat dismal last 6 months. It's only up 2.28%, but it's really feast or famine. The company announced earnings, and the market just didn't like the previous management team and was really doubting the old CEO. And the company announced, hey, we're going to switch the CEO and bring in the CEO that was running Chipotle. And the stock just really rocketed. It proves a couple of things is A, this business is really valuable. People really appreciate that Starbucks is clearly the dominant player in premium coffee. They're a restaurant, but they're a simple recipe restaurant, meaning it doesn't cost a whole lot to warm up food and serve it to customers, to brew coffee and so forth. I really like how dominant Starbucks is. It's a very desirable company. So this company, I'm glad that I bought into that weakness. I bought in at the zone where it was just kind of beat up and left for dead. And I was nicely rewarded. Now, on this stock, I'm not buying any more shares just because, holy smokes, when you have a rise of 25% in a matter of a couple of days, I got to pump the brakes a bit and just let the stock kind of settle down. Okay, let's not get too crazy and see where it goes from here. The next two stocks I'm going to cover together because they belong to the same industry of healthcare. And the two companies are Catalyst Pharmaceutical and United Therapeutics. I love both of these companies. And in the month of August, they really ran up considerably, 17% and 16%. And I continue to buy shares. These companies I put into the small cap category because both are high growth small companies that are really, really exciting. Um, I think that as investors rotate out of technology, they are looking for growth, and smaller biotech, pharmaceutical like companies offer very good growth. Historically, the healthcare industry has been a hotbed of high growth companies. Therefore, I'm going to keep buying shares in both of these companies. I have a nice return going on both of these players. It's good to see they have really good momentum in the space. Zoom had a really good August. The stock is up 14% from the beginning of the August to the end. That's really good to see because the Zoom stock really hasn't been doing all that great. For the year, it's just breaking even. And this stock really has a lot of value. If you look at their free cash flows, they've been growing their business. The market just really sold them off after COVID and really left them for dead. Really picked up the stock at a good price. But I'm not buying any more shares. I really want to see if the market is going to give Zoom credit for all its intrinsic value and the fact that they continue to grow their revenue. Or who knows, maybe a big software player is going to come around and acquire Zoom because they are just a very valuable company. Keep in mind, this company has over $7 billion of cash on the balance sheet, and they're a $21 billion market cap company. It's just a really valuable company. And I'm going to keep holding a position that I have in Zoom. Uber did really well in the month of August. And this company for the last year has been doing great. To make matters even more interesting, it had a pretty good pullback when we had that correction a month and a half ago. So I bought more shares. I'm currently sitting on $75,000 of Uber stock. I love the whole story on Uber. I think their future is really bright. And with a $75,000 total position in the stock, I'm going to hold on Uber. I think they have great momentum, but I'd like to see maybe another earnings report, maybe two, just to make sure they continue to grow. It's exciting to see the robo-taxi whole idea. Uber, I think, is going to really take advantage of that and continue to grow this really exciting business. The stock market believes that Nike is broken or it's just not desirable. and I will gladly buy into the number one athletic footwear and apparel company on the planet. When I think of Nike, I think of their dominance. I think of how valuable the Nike brand is, how iconic it is, how they partner with the best athletes, how they're really a part of the overall uh, fashion industry, as well as just basically an American icon. So I gladly bought into Nike when it really collapsed in the July timeframe. I hustled and bought as many shares as I could get my hands on, and it's done well in the month of August. So far so good. Remember that the stock market temporarily or short term could be irrational. It could sell a stock off, and you could kind of blame the computers for that, where you have stop losses and all kinds of activity that really accelerate a selling of a particular stock. And I think for a period of time, people forget the company behind the stock. But those are opportunities for the investor that wants to do their homework. I think the Nike business is terrific, and I love their story. I look for very desirable companies. These tend to be companies that have shown their dominance by being number one in their category by a wide margin. It's almost like, since we're going into football season, looking at a football team that has a 90% winning ratio. You go into the playoffs, you feel confident. Hey, that team is probably going to do something. Now, Nike for the last decade has dominated the industry. Just think of them as winning championships 9 out of 10 years. And yeah, maybe they're having a bad year this year, but they still have the dominant brand. They have really smart people. Their founder's still involved. So overall, I really like Nike. I'm continue to buy shares, especially on pullbacks. And I know that was one that I had to go out on a limb a bit because the company has had some negative press, I guess, but you can't keep value down. You can't keep a desirable company down forever. And in the month of August, the stock's really done well. And I expect that it's going to continue to rise from this point forward. Now, let me talk about a boring company that makes me a lot of money, and that is Allstate. Allstate, 2 years ago, really hit a financial wall. As you recall, cars had really risen a lot in value, and insuring those cars was very expensive. And it took about a year of adjusting rates, working with local governments, because the insurance industry is regulated. They finally got the pricing right, and the stock has been really moving up. For the last year, it's up 76%. The month of August, it's up 10%. So this was just been a really, really good holding. I decided to really accelerate my buying into Allstate, really make it one of the big, stocks that I'm going to hold. And so far, so good. It's up 10% in the month of August, and I'm going to continue to buy shares in Allstate. Is PayPal back? Well, if you look at the month of August, they really made their presence known. The stock really went up nicely, 10% in the month of August. And for the last, year to date, the stock's up 17.85%. This is a really valuable business. And I know that they haven't been a favorite to the stock market for a couple of years. They really hit a very high in the boom period of 2021. Then they were sold off, left for dead. I love those stories because oftentimes there's a really valuable business that's really unappreciated. And I like finding those businesses and investing early and watching my investment go up over time. I think PayPal has a lot of more room to go. The business continues to be discounted. If you look at their intrinsic value of the stock versus their current stock price. So I'm going to keep loading up on PayPal. It's good to see that they had a really good month, and I hope that they continue to rally for the remainder of 2024. And the last stock that I'm going to cover on this video is Meta. They're up 10% in the month of August, and Meta is just a terrific company. They have really rewarded investors over the last year, and really over the last 2 years, just been a phenomenal rise. Their stock was trading in the 80s about 2 years ago. You could have picked it up and made yourself 500% in 2 years. I had shares before that event. I bought shares during the low point, and I'm really glad that I've made Meta my number one stock in my portfolio. It has over $200,000 of value in my portfolio, and I'm glad. I continue to buy shares into Meta. I really think their AI business is not even priced into the stock. What's priced into the stock is a business they run quite effectively. They are just dominant. They're taking the X, which was Twitter previously, they're taking that business away from X in the form of threads. So they're just dominant in social networks. Close to 4 billion people have an active account on one Meta platform or another. That's just so many people. And their AI business, they have that type of audience to release Meta AI on. I've used Meta AI. It works. It works just like Chat GPT or Google Gemini. It's right there with them. But Meta has the advantage of having that 4 billion person audience. Incredible. So I'm really excited to understand more about that AI business that Meta has and what it's going to do to the company. And that may really be the next catalyst for Meta. So that's my list of stocks that I wanted to cover. I wanted to do with these stocks going forward. I hope you enjoyed my video. As always, I'm just sharing my experience as an individual investor. I'm not recommending you buy, hold, or sell any of the stocks I covered. I'm just sharing my experience, my analysis. I hope you found it interesting. Good luck investing in 2024.